Lucius Cornelius Sulla woke before dawn on New Year's Day, and for once he was almost sober. It was a small miracle, and one he noted with dry amusement as he took stock of his surroundings. He found himself exactly where he so often did, lying between two women who, for different reasons, had chosen to share his life. On his right lay his stepmother, Clitumna. On his left, his mistress, Nicopolis. Both were awake. Both were pretending not to be.
If this is a vow of silence, I should like to know when it was taken.
You should like to know a great many things, Lucius.
And most of them are none of your concern before sunrise.
He lay there for a moment longer, considering them, considering himself, and deciding, as he so often did, that the morning might yet be improved with a little effort.
Surely the new year deserves a better beginning than this.
Don't.
Oh, no, you don't.
There it is. I was beginning to think you'd both died in the night.
You are impossible.
And yet, here we are.
Yes, here we are, for now.
He fit the scene too well, and not at all. His sister, Cornelia, had been the smart one. Equally spectacular in looks, she had snatched up a rich rustic from the north and vanished into the luxuries of Picenum. That left 16-year-old Sulla to mind his father alone. Then, at 24, a reprieve. His father remarried. It wasn't the social event of the season, but it brought relief to Sulla's empty pockets. The new wife was Clitumna, the woman who now shared Sulla's bed, an Umbrian peasant by birth, but a wealthy merchant's widow by trade. She had inherited her late husband's fortune by the simple expedient of destroying his will and shipping his only child off to Calabria to sell oil. Why did a woman like Clitumna want a decayed drunkard like Sulla Senior? The answer arrived quickly. She invited the son to share her grand house on the Palatine, and promptly hopped out of the father's bed and into the son's.
Even I found a small spark of loyalty for my father in that moment. I foisted her off as tactfully as I could and moved out immediately.
He found 2 rooms in a crumbling tenement on the Esquiline. 3,000 sesterces a year, every coin accounted for, every indulgence denied. It was there he met Nicopolis. She was a Greek widow, comfortably off, with a house that smelled of oil and perfume rather than damp stone and rot. Victory City, her name meant. 5 years older than he was, she was a victory of sorts.
You cannot go out looking like that, Lucius Cornelius. You look like a man who has slept in his clothes for a week.
I have.
Then at least allow me to improve upon it.
She set about him without waiting for permission, smoothing the folds of his tunic, adjusting the drape as if he were something worth presenting to the world.
Thank you for the tunic, but I'll ruin this one soon enough.
Then I shall choose the next one more carefully.
She was fond of him. More than fond. It amused Sulla to see it, though he never quite trusted it.
Then you might consider improving more than my appearance.
She did not even pause.
No.
She would dress him in the finest silks, but she was too smart to give him an allowance.
Silver is wasted on men who do not know how to keep it.
2 years later, Sulla Senior finally guzzled himself into terminal liver disease. With the father dead, Clitumna's ruse finally worked. She and Nicopolis reached a cozy understanding. They would share the house on the Palatine, and they would share Sulla. The 3 of them became a fixture of the Roman night. They stayed away from the highbrow Greek tragedies. No masks, no groaning poetry, no Sophocles. Instead, they lived for the mime. In the world of the mime, nothing was sacred. Tall daisies wiggled from places they shouldn't. Blindfolded fathers-in-law mistook breasts for ripe melons. The gods were drunk, and the adulteries were over the top. They were friends with every comedic actor and director in Rome. They didn't consider it a party unless the names were there. For Sulla and his ladies, the tragic theatre didn't exist. In that, at least, they were true Romans. a Roman would always trade a tear for a laugh. Today was New Year's Day. It was also Sulla's birthday. He was exactly 30 years old, the age when a Roman nobleman should be climbing the first rungs of power. But Lucius Cornelius Sulla was the plaything of two women. Rome was packed with men named Cornelius. Most were the sons of freed slaves who had taken their master's name as a badge of gratitude. To the beggars, charlatans, and whores of the Subura, Sulla was just another one of them, a pale, barbaric-looking man of the streets. But the truth was a jagged pill. Sulla was a patrician. His lineage stretched back before the founding of the city itself. Poverty had stripped him of everything but his name. His father had left him nothing but raw citizenship. Not for Sulla, the broad purple stripe of the senator or the narrow stripe of the equestrian. To the censors, he was merely part of the capite censi, the head count, the masses, the nobodies. He had spent 2 years in a rotting tenement, humping wine jars and wheat urns on the wharves just to keep one servant, the only thing that signaled to the world he wasn't a beggar. He refused a steady trade. A man with a trade is a man people ask questions about. A man on the docks is just a ghost in the fog. He had never held a sword. He had never straddled a war horse. A man born to lead armies had never even cast a spear on the training fields of the Campus Martius. Because in Rome, you must pay for the privilege of dying for the state. Sulla flung himself out of the house, desperate to walk off the anguish. Clytumna's house sat in a strange neighborhood, too low for a view, but surrounded by the elite. On one side lived a wealthy banker named Titus Pomponius. On the other lived a senator named Gaius Julius Caesar. As dawn broke, Sulla saw the Caesar women walking carefully along in their high winter shoes, their cork heels keeping their fine feet above the filth of the street. They were heading to the inauguration ceremonies. Sulla slowed his pace. He watched them with the unself-conscious hunger of a man who lived through his senses. There was the mother, Marcia, still slim, still a beauty. But she couldn't rival her daughters.
Those two are true Julias, blonde and beautiful. I wonder if they're of age yet.
He watched the noblewomen settling onto their camp stools, shielded from the rain by hide tents. The younger Julia looked at him and did not look away. Sulla noticed. He saw the great families, the Liciniae, the Domitiae, gathering. He walked toward them. Unlike the poor, the Roman nobility knew exactly who Sulla was. They knew his blood was as blue as theirs. Some pitied him. Some, like the matrons Licinia and Domitia, would even amuse themselves with him in bed. But none would ever help him. Suddenly, the game felt hollow. Sulla turned on his heel and stalked away. As he passed the Caesar tent, his strange, pale eyes flicked over the girls one last time. He admired the elder Julia, but his gaze lingered on the younger sister. He felt a sharp, physical pain in his chest, part lust, part envy, part destiny. He rubbed at the ache, turned his back on the nobility, and vanished back into the shadows of the Palatine. Sulla descended the Vestal steps into the heart of the city, the noise of the market rising to meet him. Voices bartering, leather creaking, the dry whisper of parchment changing hands. As he passed through the Vicus Sandalarius, his pace slowed, almost without his noticing. This was where he had spent so many of his early years, not as a noble, but as a boy lingering at the edge of other men's stalls, listening, watching, learning. As he passed through the Vicus Sandalarius, a specific sound cut through the din, the sharp, rhythmic clink, clink, clink of a metalworker's hammer. Sulla stopped. His eyes drifted to a cluttered stall where a vendor was polishing a tray of cheap astronomical trinkets for the new year. Among the leaden stars and tin suns, lay a small tarnished bronze moon. It was roughly made, but it caught the winter light with a dull, familiar glow. It was here, at this stall, that his beloved tutor, Quintus Gavius Myrto, had found him. Sulla had been 7 years old, thin as a reed, dragging his father through the mud by the arm. The man was drunk, insensible, muttering to himself as his son hauled him forward with a strength that seemed greater than his years. Myrto, a grammaticus who made his living teaching the sons of respectable families, had stopped to watch. What caught his attention was not the scene itself. Rome had no shortage of such spectacles, but the boy's voice. Even in irritation, even in exhaustion, the child spoke Latin with a clarity and precision that did not belong in that alley. In that brief exchange, Myrto decided that he would take on Sulla as his student, and he would waive the fee. Young Sulla accepted the offer, but refused the charity, and found his own way to pay. He came to Myrto with coins taken from careless purses, chickens snatched from inattentive vendors, and whatever else of value he could acquire.
I thank you, Lucius, but you need not endanger yourself for the sake of your studies.
A man is no man at all if he seeks charity.
But you're only 14.
I won't be young forever.
Under Myrto's guidance, Sulla discovered a world that had nothing to do with the narrow, filthy room he returned to each night. He learned Attic Greek until it came as naturally to him as his own tongue. He devoured Homer and Plato, and followed Euclid through proofs that seemed, to him, as elegant as any speech in the forum. In the streets he spoke the rough cant of the Subura when he needed to survive, but in his mind he moved among philosophers and statesmen. Myrto, for his part, was a man of small habits and large enthusiasms. He had a way of sucking his teeth when he was thinking, a habit his students liked to imitate behind his back, and from time to time he would fall into speculation about the vastness of knowledge still hidden in the world.
Somewhere, Lucius Cornelius, someone has hidden the lost works of Aristotle. Imagine that mind, set loose upon everything, stars and atoms, souls and the nature of things. What a treasure that would be to find those scrolls, to have that chance to read them.
He would pause, shake his head, and laugh at himself.
Never mind. I shouldn't complain. I have my Homer and my Plato, and I have a Cornelius who steals chickens to learn them.
When the old man died, it became clear how far his influence had reached. He was not consigned to the anonymous lime pits. His students, 2 generations of them, came together to see him properly buried. Sulla walked among them, dry-eyed as the pyre was lit, and the smoke of myrrh rose into the sky. He watched in silence as the only man who had ever shown him anything like love was consumed by fire. The greater surprise came afterward. Myrto had left a will with the Vestal Virgins. He had possessed no money to speak of, but what little he owned he left to Sulla. His entire library, and a delicate mechanical model of the heavens, in which the sun and moon revolved in perfect order around the earth. Sulla stood before the Vestals, the weight of those objects suddenly immense in his hands, and spoke so quietly that only they could hear him.
One day, Quintus Gavius, I will find those lost works of Aristotle. This I swear.
For a brief time, it seemed the old man's world might endure. Then Sulla came home to find his corner of the room bare. His father, in a desperate, sodden haze, had taken the library and the model of the universe and sold them all for wine. Sulla stands in the center of a barren room. His father, Cornelius, is slumped in the corner, a dark stain of wine on his tunic.
The model of the spheres, father. The bronze moon, where is it?
It was metal, Lucius. Metal buys jars. Do you know how many jars a bronze moon is worth?
Only his sister's intervention stopped him from committing parricide that evening. Shortly after, she married and fled to Picenum, leaving Sulla alone with a man he could neither forgive nor forget. Years later, when Sulla possessed thousands of volumes and could afford to fill entire rooms with models of the cosmos, he would still return, in memory, to that first small library, and to the man who had given it to him. Quintus Gavius Myrto. Sulla could hear the procession growing louder. He climbed the Clivus Capitolinus until he reached the temple of Jupiter Optimus Maximus. A massive crowd had gathered for the New Year's sacrifice, but Sulla had a peculiar talent. He could project a shiver of disquiet, an aura so unsettling that people instinctively moved away from him. He used this gift now, parting the crowd of wealthy equestrians like a blade through silk, until he stood at the very front with a perfect view of the altar. He had no legal right to be there, but he knew he wouldn't be evicted. Even in his poverty, there was something in his blood, 1,000 years of ancestral gravity, that commanded a place at the front of the line.
Rome's luck broke the day they butchered the Gracchi. I can feel it.
His eyes swept over the assembled senators. To Sulla, they looked like a gathering of mediocrities, non-entities in expensive wool. Men who had sent 30,000 soldiers to their deaths in a decade, all in the name of personal greed. At the altar, the white sacrificial bull was behaving badly. It was thrashing, resisting the priests.
I don't blame the beast. I wouldn't put my neck under the chopper for the likes of the Consul Postumius Albinus either.
Then the blow fell. The blade struck, and the blood began to flow. There is a staggering amount of blood in a fully grown bull. To Sulla, it was a fascination he couldn't tear his gaze away from. Richly crimson, slick and thick, it coursed downhill among the feet of the elite. He wondered, was everything crammed with energy, always some shade of red, fire, blood, his own hair, molten metal? Amid the shifting silk, one man stood like a rock. He did not flinch. He did not blink. He watched the blood as if it were routine. Sulla was stunned. Now that was a man. But who?
He doesn't have the look of the famous families. That nose, it's too short, too straight. There's a dollop of the Celt in him. And those eyebrows, gigantic, bushy things.
The stranger had the face of an eagle, marked by 2 battle scars that only added to his grim dignity. He wasn't one of the current praetors. They were clotted together behind the consuls, looking as promising as an old magistrate with a bad constitution. This man was something else, formidable, fierce, proud. Sulla turned abruptly and stalked away. He had seen enough, but as he descended the hill, the question coiled around him. Go where? Where else was there for a man like him? Only back to the refuge, back to the dim, scented rooms of the Palatine, to the moist, aging bodies of the women who owned him. There were worse fates, he told himself. A man could drown in worse things than silk and expensive wine. But the voice at the back of his mind, the one that sounded like 1,000 years of dead Cornelia, would not stay silent. It reminded him that on this day, he should not have been a spectator in the mud. He should have been the one in the purple-bordered toga. He should have been the one holding the blade over the bull. He only knew that the world was the wrong shape, and one day he would be the one to bend it back.